Hi everyone, welcome to Black Girl Joy. This is it. We had some technical difficulties, so we started a few minutes late. So I appreciate your patience. I am excited and yet nervous about today's conversation. I'm going to be joined by my dear friend Nikki Joseph, who's a realtor here in the Metro Atlanta area. So before we get started, please like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Remember to add your comments into the comment section and we'll read them on air. All right, let me bring in the beautiful, the wonderful.
Oh, I love you. Hi, everybody.
So, Nikki and I go back.
I think you're frozen, but we go back years, about 7, I want to say. Um,
Are we up? Am I back?
you're back.
Am I?
Yes, I can hear you.
So,
That's
I
nothing
think,
but the devil. The devil don't want this conversation to happen today.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that's where we are today. All right. So if it becomes an issue, we'll just do it another time. But we're going to try to sit through this. Okay. It feels like it's getting itself together from my indicators. All right. So today we're going to be talking about the super tough topic of grief. And so we've all lost loved ones. And I think for me, I didn't really process grief until I lost my mother. And so Nikki also had a loss. So I'm going to let Nikki share with you about her loss.
It's so funny that we're having this conversation. My brother and I kind of had it a couple weeks ago, and it's different for every person. So, in my situation, I never experienced grief growing up, even though I had like tragedies in my life. My dad did an excellent job as a single parent shielding us. So, him and my mom, they like kind of went to the transition of from married to divorce when I was in 5th grade. And so from that point forward, I was basically raised by a single father. But he did not allow the choices that him and my mother made affect myself and my brother as a child.
Mm.
So he shielded us very well. Like, even when there were funerals or deaths when I was younger and we had to travel, he would make it like a trip. We're going to sightsee. We have an event we have to stop off at, but I was never really affected by it. So it wasn't until I was in my 30s and I lost my grandmother first, who was very instrumental in raising myself. My parents were both in the military. So when they would be like away, my grandmother is the person who would take care of me.
Mm.
And that loss, even with that, it was kind of easy because I was able to say my goodbyes to her, even though it was unexpected. I was at peace. With my mother, it was very different. It was unexpected. I had just had my son. He was 2 weeks old or about to be 2 weeks old. So I was already dealing with like some postpartum there. And with my mom, it was just like a tragic situation. One, I'm trying not to cry.
Oh,
um,
it's okay.
so, and even in that experience, I was never able to say like my goodbyes to her. I remember our last phone conversation, and she lived in Texas, and she called me, and my mom, or anybody who knew her, she was like a rambler like myself. So she would talk to you about the same thing 5 to 6 different times. So I rushed her off the phone. Like I was driving. It was my first time away from my son. And then, I have a 3-year-old too. So they're 17 months apart and a 16-year-old. So it was just like my first time actually having some peace. I didn't want to talk to my mom about the same thing. So I lied to her and I was like, Mom, I'm in the bed. I'm trying to take a nap while the baby is asleep. And she said, Oh, I just want to tell you that I love you. Call me later. She started talking about some blazers she wanted to send me. And the next phone call I got was that, she had passed. And it was during COVID. There was a lot of unanswered questions for myself and my brother. So we have not honored her like in a memorial type of way. Um, and again, like I said, grief is different for every person. So
Mhm.
we're going through different stages. I've gone through anger, I've gone through happiness, I've gone through sadness. But in all of that, I'm learning that you can take your emotions and you can channel it in whatever way you want to.
Mhm.
Um, but it's you who determines what you're going to do out of that grief. So you can allow it to tear you down, or you can allow it to kind of build you back up. So although I have not honored my mother, I'm the one who still has her remains. So I talk to him every day. Hey, Kelly girl, what's going on today? She's in my office with me. So it's like the first thing I see. And I could have turned that into, oh my God, my mom, like, here's your ashes. And I'm just not going to work today. I'm going to go the other way, which is what I did for a long time. I
Mhm.
allowed it to kind of put me into a depression. Um, but you can kind of steer your way out of that with just your mindset, is how I do it.
Yeah. So it's interesting when you say that your dad didn't really like involve you guys in the grieving process, right? So when I grew up, I lost people who were like close in proximity to me, but the people who I was really attached to, like super attached to, I the first one I lost when I graduated high school, right? So right after I
Mhm.
graduated high school. And so I call her like my bonus grandmama because she raised me,
Yeah.
right? And she died at like 96, right? She was really old. And so she was having strokes, right? So my first time dealing with grief, I dealt with it. I don't know, it was functional. I was
Mhm.
functional, but I was like, I would go to the graveyard all the time, and it was in Fitzgerald Country. And
Mhm.
so, and so it'd be down this long clay road, and my mama hated me going out there. She absolutely hated it and told me I couldn't go. I would just go. And so I was crying, and I had so much like regret, right? I had a lot of regret around that and a lot of guilt about not prioritizing like seeing her because I knew she was sick.
Mhm.
But I was young and she was in the nursing home. I was like, I can't go to no nursing home. It creeps me out. And so
Mhm.
I like that's grief that I live with and guilt that I live with every day. Like sometimes I'll think about it and I just burst out in tears, right?
Mhm.
Still. So I didn't have a framework for dealing with grief. And so my grandmama died right before my mom, maybe a year or two,
Mhm.
a year or two before my mom died. It all runs together. And it was unexpected, but in the last like 2 days, right? 3 days, they were like, yeah, she probably not gonna make it. And so I had a chance, and that's my first time being in the room when
Mhm.
somebody died. And I was in the room and you could feel her hand go cold, and it was an energy. It was like nothing else I've ever experienced. And that's like the most peaceful experience that I've had with death because it just felt like peace. And it was
Mhm.
weird, but you felt it. Like you felt her energy in the room. And it was just
Yeah.
crazy. And then, of course, my mom passed. And that was a long, drawn out process. And so I had to grieve her for about 3 years while she went through that process. So I'm not gonna cry. But I think the crazy part is that in during that process, I didn't know how I was gonna make it.
Mhm.
That process, I had to really focus on like what does grief mean to me and how is this manifest for me.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna cry,
It's
but
okay.
I think it's important to have these conversations and we don't really have them. And it's like,
Mhm.
how do you grieve? And there's no right way to grieve. So I don't know if you've had this, but did you have anyone like give you suggestions around how to
Oh,
grieve or
absolutely.
try to involve themselves in your grieving process?
Oh, absolutely. My I don't even wanna say this because I know they're gonna see it, but
Be
every
anonymous.
everyone had an opinion,
Mhm,
my mother's family, about how we should honor her, and,
mhm,
she's a veteran, so they wanted, like, a flag parade to be held in her hometown. Her remains were cremated, but they wanted us to buy a plot for her and put that plot, and my mother never wanted to be buried, so I was against it, even though I don't know how I want to grieve my mother, well, how I want to honor her, because I feel like even when I move every day, my business, for example, is an honor to my mother. So that is how I'm daily getting through the grieving process. The reason I got into real estate is because when my mother would come and pick us up on the weekends, she didn't have a lot of money. So we would ride around in different areas and she would go, "Oh, when you get rich, I want you to buy your mama this house. I want you to do this. I want you to do, girl, we're going to have a patio in the back. It's going to have a barbecue grill." Like that built something in me. Like it put a fire in me from when I was young
mhm.
because I wanted them houses. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so when my mother passed and I was kind of like you, I think I reached out to you and I said, Rizal, I just need a lifeline. Like I have all of these people who are telling me what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do it. I have my husband who's looking at me to be the strong mother and a wife. Even though tragedy has happened, life is still going on. And I got these babies that I'm over here trying to be strong for, but I have not even been able to cry yet. Out of really anger, because when my mother passed, I just know that there was some foul play that went on with it, and I allowed that to take over. So when these people were calling me saying, "Oh, this is what you need to do. Oh, you need to call that man who got all this life insurance money for her. Like that's who needs to do this." But I was allowing their opinions to affect me instead of me just saying, "I need to take a moment and we're going to handle it in the way we're going to handle it. And when we do it, it's going to be in a way that she would like it to be done." Even with my grandmother, how I told you my family shields me from things. So my grandmother and my mother passed away in like a 3-year time span. Um, I was here in Atlanta. My family was in Wisconsin, and everyone kept telling me, "Don't come." Like, "Oh, you don't have to come. Grandma's going to be fine. It was just a little accident. She'll recover." But my family has done that my entire life because they know I am the sensitive one. I'm the one who, if you tell me so and so got a cold, I'm crying. You know what I'm saying? So they'll be like, "No, don't tell Nikki this. Nikki doesn't need to know." And it's a way that my dad, my uncles, my village, they have tried to shield me because I'm the only girl besides my children. So that's
Mhm,
their way of protecting their little girl. Um, but I was able to get peace out of that because I had a conversation with my grandmother. Even though people were telling me not to come, I was
mhm,
calling and I was talking to her on the phone. So when she did pass, I kind of knew what to expect and what was going to happen. But
mhm,
I was able to have closure and I could go, okay. But I learned in that process, if I would have came and not listened to what everybody else was telling me, my grieving process probably would have been quicker and I would have gotten more out of it because my grandmother was basically like our matriarch of our
mhm.
family. Maybe I would have been able to come and take over that role. You know what I'm saying? Like there nobody can tell you what your next step is but God. So
Yeah.
I should have probably been there to be able to hear and just take from her. Like you say, you were able to touch the hand, you were able to get your peace from that. I
Mhm.
wasn't able to do that in either situation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And so it makes it different, right? So for me, like I said, it was a 3 maybe even 4 year process of my
Mhm.
mom going through this thing. Well, with my grandmama, it was literally like a 2 week process. It was like, oh, she's going for surgery. And I think the one thing I was very intentional about because of my previous experience with my bonus grandmama was no, I'm not going to create a space for guilt and regret and
Mhm.
shame around this because it's very important to me. So as soon as I heard about my grandmama, I was like, I called my child, I was like, okay, I gotta go. And I don't know when I'll be back
Right.
because it was just, I was like, if I don't do this, I'm gonna regret it. And no lie, within an hour of me arriving, she passed, me and Jalen. So I,
And I'm sorry, I was just gonna say I admire that about you so much because if somebody tell you no, you're still gonna do what's best for you and what your thoughts are. And I allow people to get you do. Cause you knew like, okay, they telling me not to come, but I'm gonna go anyway. And that is what I should have done. And I was like, no, everybody's telling me it's okay, so it's okay. And sometimes it's not okay.
but
Like
the thing is,
they
you have to have your moment, right? So my moment when
yeah.
the first time when I was like, well, I'm not going to that was my decision. I'm not going to a nursing home. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't like it. It freaks me out. I'm a germaphobe. I just have all these things, right?
Right, right.
Because it sat with me so long when it comes to life or death situations, not
Mm-hmm.
every situation, people talk me out of stuff all the time, right? But when it comes to life or death situations, now I'm like, no, because I don't know how that's going to impact me.
Right.
And I don't know if I'll survive that. So let me do what I need to do. And now you're probably the same exact way.
I am. Especially when it comes to like people I care about, because
Hmm.
one thing I've learned with my mom is you just never know when it's going to be the last time you speak to a person.
Hmm.
So even in like my daily life, my husband, he get on my nerves to the to the point of no
You don't appreciate you
return.
saying that.
I know he's not, but I know not to ever go to bed angry, to always tell that man, I love you. I appreciate what you do. My life would be different if you were not here. My dad, like, my life would be so much different if he did not step up and say, yes, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to raise my children. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is not common for an
Mhm.
African American male. But if he would not have done that, I don't know where, I would be at. My mom was very lax. She wasn't really stern on us about school and things like that because she always believed like, yeah, education is important, but you can get money in every other opportunity. So you don't have to go to school. You don't have
Mhm.
to do this. She was one of those parents that'll let you play hooky if you had a stomach ache. Like, but my dad, like, he just did not play that. So, and I take that for granted. I have my success and I don't call my dad every day. I don't say, hey, thank you for this.
Mhm.
But I've learned that I have to. I have to just celebrate everyone, my friends, my family, my neighbors next door. You have to just celebrate everyone because you do not know when it's going to be your last time speaking to that person.
So, as you go through your grief journey, like where are you now? And does it fluctuates, right?
Oh my God. So today I'm very happy. A song could come on the radio, which was like random. I was listening to a country station and that song, I Hope You Dance, came on. And I just bust out crying, like, Mama, I hope you somewhere dancing real. Like, it's, I don't know. I get angry. One day I'll see something on TV and I'll just go into like this
Mhm.
whole, oh my God, woe is me feeling. But I have to go back to mindset. I have to pull myself out of that so I can allow it to affect my whole day. And I can say, okay, well, I'm not going to do anything today. I'm just going to lay around. I'm going to watch Real Housewives because it's going to make me feel better. Or I can get up and I can do something with that grief. I can channel it into something positive, which is what I decide to do.
So,
But it's hard.
do you ever sit in it though? Do you allow yourself, because you said your dad was like, don't pay attention to the grief. do you allow yourself to sit in it and feel it and then kind of move forward, or do you just instantly try to go?
Yeah. If I allow myself to sit, I will sit and I will stay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So instead of that, if I feel like a notion of, oh my God, I'm missing my mom today, I immediately start to try to go and think of excited memories or happy
Mm-hmm.
memories. Do something that we both like to do together. If
Mm-hmm.
it's going and look at a house, if it's going to get my nails done, but just something to take my focus off of that for the moment, and then still something to honor her. Like, you not here with me, girl, but we gonna go out like old times and we just gonna have a good
Yeah.
day. um but I just can't. Mental health is really real. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that it's very prevalent in my family. So that is something that I do not allow myself to even linger in, because if I do, I'll sit there and then I'll have a bottle of wine, and then that wine will be gone and I'll have another one. And it's just too many people who need me to be
Mm-hmm.
good, for me to allow it to hang. But it's hard. It is
Yeah.
hard, and you need a village.
Yeah. And so sometimes I will, it depends, like, it's a crazy moment. One day I was like, I'm gonna try to learn how to cook dressing. Like my mama knew I loved
Yeah.
cornbread dressing, right? And so I was like, I'm gonna try to cook it. And then of course I can't cook. So it turned out horrible. And I'm in there like crying over it and trying to,
That is so
and then it
funny.
turns out horrible. I'm never gonna have another good
That is so
cornbread dressing
funny.
ever. But it does, like, so that was the moment I was like, you know what, don't try to do this again, because it put me like that headspace. But there are times where you're right, it just pops up. Sometimes I sit in it and I just soak in the memory,
Yeah.
right? And then I kind of move through it and I go on.
Hmm.
It may take me 30 minutes, it may take me 15 minutes, but I go through it and I move on. So kind of like you said, when the last 2 times I went out of town, right? And my mama never got on the plane. So it's always like when I get on the plane, I always think about my mama. But
Hmm.
and I got to the hotels, or I was in a car and they're playing the radio. And like one night the first night in the hotel when I went to LA, I wake up and it's like Phil Collins. And my mama always play I Can Hear It Coming in the Air Tonight.
Hmm.
Like always. So it's like all these songs that I attached to her. And I was like, it was like the middle of the night,
Yeah.
like crying in LA, because I'm like, it almost feels like her presence is there, because it's like,
Yeah.
why in the world would somebody randomly play I Can Feel It Coming in the Air Tonight? Like it's old. Like,
So
why?
let me ask you, do you look at those like signs?
I'm a huge believer in
Yeah.
signs, and yeah. So I look at that and I'm like, okay, well my mama's saying hello today. And it may
Yeah.
sound odd to people, but it's, even if it's not real, which for me it feels very real, it's very comforting at times.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I definitely do. So it was like a running joke with my mom and I, where she couldn't cook either. And everything
Mhm.
she would make, when she would walk out of the room, I would go behind her and I would season it. And I would never tell her. And then she'll go, "Oh, girl, try this, try this. Look, taste this spaghetti. This spaghetti is amazing, right?" And so I finally ended up telling her, because one day she was just braggadocious about this meal that she cooked. And I'm like, "Mom, like, I've been seasoning your food for years for you, right?" And so a moment ago, my husband was cooking dinner for the kids so I could prepare for the podcast, and he was making spaghetti. And I
Mhm.
kind of did the same. I went behind him and I seasoned it, and that just brought back my mom to me. And
Yeah.
I just bust out crying like, I gotta get it together. I'm supposed to be online in 10 minutes. But I also felt like in that moment, it was a sign like, okay, I'm here with you, because I
Mhm.
kind of get anxiety. I hate talking in public. So it was like, I'm here with you. Everything is going to be smooth. I hate it. Even though I'm the life of the party, I hate it. I'm like a extroverted introvert, really.
Yeah, because
So
you were very outgoing.
Thank you for that.
You are. You're like very like excited and
Yeah, I hate it. It is all a facade. I really hate speaking to people. It gives me like nervousness on the inside. So like even when I talk, I go like this a lot, and that's just me trying to like calm myself down because. But it's so funny because that's what people expect out of me now. Like they want me to come with all of this energy, and I don't have it in me a lot of the time. So I just have to pull it, and that's what I'll tell you, like, you just have to switch your mind frame because there's a
Mhm.
lot of times I just want to stay in home, stay in bed, but somebody is counting on me. And if I cancel one more time, one more event, I'm not having any more friends.
I'll
So
still be your friend.
I love you. I love you. You be sticking me too. Like, are you really coming, Nikki? But that's
All
what
my
it
friends
is.
cancel on me. No worries. All
It's
of them.
so hard. It's just really like you have to pull that energy out and you have to be ready to be on, and it's a lot.
Yeah. So, how do you incorporate your mom's memory into your life today?
So like I said, my real estate business, it's very personal to me. It's something that I started really like the day I found out that she passed away. I went and I had a deep conversation with God, and I said, God, I need something because I will drown. And I just started going back into my thoughts and my memories. And I started my real estate license journey like the week after she passed, and I got licensed on Angel Day. So that to me is like, yes, Kelly, yes, Grandma, like y'all were here and y'all were there for me. Um, but it's also my why for my business. So I don't go into it like, okay, well, I'm looking for a big commission or I'm only going to help this person if you're looking to buy a house right now. Like, my goal is to get everybody into that dream home that I could not get my mother into. And I'm dedicated to help a person every step of the way. So if we have to start at a rental, that's where we're going to start. But when we get you that key to the rental or when we get you the key to the home, it's myself and my mother that are taking you across that threshold. It's like I couldn't do it for her, but I'm going to do it for as many people until Jesus tell me it's time to go home. um, I also just try to
Mhm.
keep her memory alive with my children. My
Mhm.
two youngest were never able to meet her, but I truly believe, like spirits go and you leave little pieces with
Mhm.
anybody that you encounter. So my youngest, he acts like my mother. Like he acts like her. He'll do stuff, and I'm like, okay, Kelly, go. Like just get out. But I always try to keep that memory alive. I wear her on my necklace, so I carry her around with me everywhere I go. Um, and just really living in those memories that I
Mhm.
have with her. That'll turn your day around. Like I know Mother's Day when it's a horrible day and you're like, oh my God, I'm just not gonna make it. I
Mhm.
just I just take a moment. I go sit in my closet. I'll talk to her. Hey girl, you're not here, but we're gonna go out here and we're gonna have some brunch, okay? And we're gonna honor you in that way. So I just try to make her proud in everything that I do, really. And I try to make sure that my kids will never forget who she is.
So I have like 5 topics from what you just said.
Okay.
So I'm gonna run, right? So funny story.
Okay.
When you talk about how your mom inspires you, like with houses, right? So I always told my mom, and I get a little sad about it because I always told her she was like, "I'm going to the nursing home." I'm like, "You ain't going to no nursing home." So
That is
I would
so
say,
funny.
"Nope, I'm gonna grow up and I'm gonna get a big house, and you gonna come stay with me." And she said, "Child, I would never stay with you." She was like, "I would never stay." I was like, "Yes,
Oh,
yes, you are. When you get old, you staying with me." So it was sad to me to see her pass. I'm like, I ain't got the house. Like it really impacted me. I
that
was like,
is
I
so
ain't got the house
funny.
to make her stay
Yeah.
with me. And so that's one thing that's funny. Another thing you said is that I started my business right after my mom passed as well. And so I'm a so I started my business right after my mom passed because it almost it almost made me feel like, okay, you got to just live and you got to do what works for you and you got to live your dream and do what you need to do to live. I'm bringing you back in.
Okay. That girl started washing dishes. Now she know I'm working.
I was
I'll
like,
show you these Kennedys. I'm like, come on now.
but yeah, so I went on a similar journey as like, okay, I'm gonna do coaching and I'm gonna do it in my mom's honor and try to make her proud
Mm-hmm.
as well. There was something you said about your kids not meeting your mom. So one of the things I went through with my grieving process still is like, it's certain stuff I don't want to do no more. Right. So certain stuff I don't want to do. Number one is I don't want to have no more kids anyway.
Me either.
But like I think about it, I'm like me having a kid without my mama here. And I don't know if that's healthy or not, but I'm just like, she raised my child for 4 years. She did all the hard stuff. She did potty training. She did the late nights, like basically walking, like she did all the hard stuff. I'm like, I don't know that I want to do that. And
Yeah.
also, like, I was like, I don't really want to get married. My mom won't be at my wedding. I don't want to get married.
You
Like,
have to get
I don't,
married though.
huh?
You have to get married.
I don't know about
You
have
just have
to.
to.
You
You
know,
have to.
and I hear something else. But like certain things, even when me and you were looking for a house, right? And I found one I really, really liked. It made me sad because I was like, I'm gonna move, and my mom not gonna
Yeah.
see it. And so everything
Yeah.
I do now, it comes back to me, and I
Yeah.
don't know if that's healthy or not, but it's kind of the way I feel. Have you
Yeah.
felt anything like that? Anything similar?
So yeah, when you just said you don't want to have kids, I feel the exact look, I gotta whisper because my husband want one more. I feel the exact same way. For me, so even though my mother was not able to meet my children, she made her presence known. She
Mhm.
had like the biggest gifts at the baby shower.
Mhm.
When I had both of my children, she was in Texas, and with Omar Jr., my youngest, it was COVID, so she could not like physically be there,
Mm.
but she sat on the phone with me. Like she was coaching me through pushing my kids out. I'm sorry. And she was like the first person I sent pictures to my kids of.
Mhm.
It was one, my mom always had like this way of knowing
Mhm.
exactly what you wanted for your kids, right? So when I did like my baby shower registry for my son, I prayed, Rizal. You know, I have like health issues. So I had a lot of miscarriages, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed for a son. And one of the things is every pregnancy that I've had successfully, they've always been twins, but one has vanished. And
Mm.
with this one, it was the same, and the one that vanished was a girl. So I'm like, oh yes, finally I got my boy, finally. And the baby shower gift that my mom sent was this set of crib sheets, and it says, God knew my heart needed you. And my son is still like, he's too big for this, and I still put those sheets on his bed because it was just like, okay, your grandmother is not here, but this is what she bought you. And she knew
Yeah.
like you were the blessing that I have been praying for. And she was not like, I don't want to say she wasn't religious, but she wasn't a very religious person. She didn't go to
Mhm.
church. So for you to send something saying like, God knew my heart needed you, like you felt it. And so for me, it would be very hard for me to go through carrying a child again, being on bed rest again, and not even having my mom on the phone. Like I wouldn't be able to make it through. And she would do just little stuff like send care packages in the mail.
Mhm.
So it would be little like all my favorite snacks just out of nowhere. Like, who
That's
gonna do that for me now? You know what I'm saying?
girl. Yeah.
Um, so it's just, it wouldn't be the same if I went. And then my village is just different because with my oldest, she did basically all of that. Like you said, she helped her walk. Like I used to get mad. I had Kennedy when I was 19, and she would call my mom. And I'm like, no, I'm your mother. I'm your mother, right?
You got that?
Um, girl, I got mad and moved out. Okay. Like
No, you
you are not.
didn't.
I
You did
did.
not
You
move
heard.
out about that.
And
Jalen
not
called
only
my
did
mom. Jalen called my mom, right? Because he
mm-mm,
stayed down there. And people would say, "You ain't mad?" And I'd be like, "No, shoot, she acting like the mama."
mm-mm,
Like I'm up here going to school, working, and I'm trying, but I never got mad or
I
jealous.
did.
I was just like,
I did.
hey,
And not only did I move out of her house, honey, I moved to a different state. I moved
girl,
to
bye.
Texas. Like, ain't
Girl,
no grandma up in here.
girl, no,
I
ma'am.
did. And she followed me.
That's what you
She
get.
came and was like, that baby need me, and you are not gonna try to put me up out of here because she calling me mama. Like, so
No.
it just wouldn't like it wouldn't be the same for
Mm-hmm.
me. Even like with successes that I have in my own
Mm-hmm.
life, I don't feel right celebrating them.
Mm-hmm.
Because she would be the first person I called. If I got in
Mm-hmm.
trouble, if I was, being honored for somebody, my mama was the call I made. So
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel the same to have
Mhm.
like these happy moments happen and life still continues, but the main character is not there any longer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really like that hit a point with me because with Jalen, it's the same way, right? Like he had a concert. I remember like his first concert, and I was like bawling in the
Yeah.
car in the parking lot. So, but yeah, so let's move on to a lighter
Right.
topic. I'm gonna find a lighter topic because I didn't have no
Okay.
lighter one available.
It's okay.
But like, okay, so you talked about how you honor your mom. So I do weird things, right? So I am an introvert,
Mhm.
and for me, my grieving process is very, to me, individualized. And because like people talk and it like causes me confusion and all the stuff, I have like really isolated myself in my grieving process, and it works for me, right?
Mhm.
Some people want to be around a lot of people, some people need comfort from other people. I pretty much is me, and I have a friend who I talk to about it, and that's about it. So for
Mhm.
me, like I do things like on Mother's Day or on her birthday, I'll go to the graveyard and I'll buy a cupcake and I
Oh,
take pictures and I eat at the grave and I blast music and I may dance like and people will be I'll be singing out loud and people will be in other grades, and I'm like, this. I'll go out there and I scratch lottery tickets because we used to always
right.
dream about winning the lottery. Um, but it's very individualized to the point where my brother said, he's like, she won't go with us. I want to go. I will not go to the graveyard or to the cemetery with anybody else. Like I will not.
Mhm.
And it's because for me, it's a very personal process.
Mhm.
And the craziest thing is when I'm in Fitzgerald and when I'm at the cemetery, it is the place I feel at most peace of anywhere. And so I keep it that way by not involving, I consider myself an empath. So not involving other people's emotions. Like, but when I'm there, like I'm there. Like one time I went
Mhm.
there, my sister was still there, and I was like, you
I'll
know,
wait.
she was in the car though. I was like, where's she going? Where's she gonna leave? I guess the other thing I started doing. So one thing I do is I'll go out there and I'll eat like cupcakes on special days.
Mhm.
I'll sing, listen to music. I also started a thing of like decorating her grave. So I will decorate like for Christmas. I'll put
Mhm.
like garland with with ornaments around it, right? For Easter, I'll get string eggs and I'll put like pretty flowers, like Easter flowers, and I
Mhm.
put that around it. So I that's kind of also my way of like physically like going out there and just honoring her in that way. So some of it may seem weird to other people, right? Like, why is she out here singing with decoration and glitter around the grave? Why is she doing that? Have you done anything like that? Or do you have any like because they're like my own built-in traditions now.
Yeah. So no, I think like even if my mom was at a grave site, I wouldn't go.
Hmm.
that's just my own. I don't like graveyards. So my grandmother is like at a burial site and I won't go visit it. Um, but I talk to them internally, like I feel like their spirit is around
Mhm.
me every day. But for me, like that means closure. So I don't want to go and look at a ground and know like that's where they're resting.
Mhm.
Because then all of my spirits and talks and thoughts to myself would kind of be in vain, I guess. But what I
Mhm.
do is I have dates with my mom, which kind of sounds weird, but I told you, even though you think I'm all whatever, I don't have like a lot of people that I like to call and hang out with. Like I can count them on my hand.
Mhm.
And those people, I don't want to make them feel like every time we're connecting it's about my grieving, things like that. So I
Mm.
just started going by myself, and it could be something that I want to do with Omar and he just isn't with it. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going on a mom date. And I buy 2 tickets if I'm going to the movies. People look at me weird. I buy 2 tickets and I go by myself. She got her own little seat. What you want, Kelly? You want some raisinets? My mom used to do raisinets with popcorn. So that's like my snack of choice. I'll do raisinets, popcorn, and I'll talk. Girl, you see that right there? You see what happened? But that's how it is. Like if I'm in a store or something like that, like I literally will hold a conversation like somebody is there with me. But
Uh-huh. And
in
what
my mind,
people hear you?
they look, yes, girl. And so I'll be like, oh, I got my AirPod. I had to start wearing my AirPods in so people don't just think I'm crazy. But I will really be like, girl, ain't nobody about to buy no smart water for five. Who do you think I am? Like, we not about to do that. And then I see them looking, I'm like, oh, I'm on the phone, but I'm just talking to Kelly. I'm just talking to her. And I do it at random times. I'll be getting my nails done and be like, oh, she think I'm crazy. Like, it would just look like what? Um, but one thing I do want to start doing, my brother and I have talked about it, is like on her birthdays and things like that. I don't want to honor the day she passed away. Like, I don't want that to continue to be my memory, which is what a lot of people I know do. Like, they'll honor that day that they went to heaven. But we
I
want
do
to
all
start
of them.
really.
Uh-huh. I do all of them. Like I have to, and I don't necessarily honor that day, but I definitely take off of work.
Gotcha.
And I may go to Fitzgerald because there's something like that tells me I need to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I was supposed to go down the day before she passed. That I said no, I'm gonna come down the next weekend. And she asked me the day before. She's like, "You
Mm-hmm.
coming?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna do this. And I'm gonna come next weekend." So now I feel like I at least, because sometimes Jalen's in school because it's in February.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like,
Gotcha.
I take that day off. Like I'm not talking to nobody. I'm not doing nothing on that day. It's just like I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna do whatever I want to do on that day.
Well, see, I don't like to focus on it because my son was born on the 2nd. My mother passed away on the 18th. My anniversary is on the 22nd. And then my dad's birthday is on the 26th. So it's like joy,
It's
incredible sadness,
yeah.
joy, joy. And it's
Mhm.
just hard for my emotions to bounce like that.
Mhm.
But one thing that we have discussed doing is my mom always talked about traveling. She just never traveled really.
Mhm.
So on her birthday, we want to start taking trips to honor her.
That's
Um, yeah, so we'll start like a small one, Vegas, which is the last trip that her and my brother went on
mm,
together. So we'll start something like that, and then we'll just work our way up to bigger things, and then hopefully we'll be able to come to a point where we're able to go ahead and have that celebration for her family and things like that. But at this time, we just want to do it in our own way. And what
yeah.
works for me is talking about Kelly and talking to her.
The point, right? Like that's the point of this whole like
Yeah.
look, and I held you way over your time, but
Oh,
that's the point of the whole show, right? Is that there are different ways to grieve
mhm.
and everybody has to do what works for them. And I don't like the feeling of, well, she's still sitting in this or she's still, like that judgment that could come with
Yeah.
how people grieve. Like I saw somebody post a picture of somebody laid out in like one of those like beach chairs, girl at the gravesite with a pen. Like, but that's the point, right? You don't. you don't have to just get over it and act like nothing happened. You don't have
Right.
to just move on and act like nothing happened. This person has left something with you, and that can be manifested every day, and it can be shown every day and how this person has impacted your life.
Right. And that's so true. Sorry, my kids are going to bed. It's a crazy house over here. Welcome to the jungle. But that's so true too. And I feel like if people try to push you, like, okay, well, it's time to stop grieving or it's time to stop doing this, all it's going to do is make you go into a silent depression. Like,
Hmm.
no one can tell you what's right and what's wrong and how you're supposed to do it. Um, I know a person whose mother passed, I want to say 9 or 10 years ago, and they still cry every day. They still, do celebrations for them. They wear a certain color. If they see a butterfly, they believe it's their mom, and that's okay for them. You know what I'm saying? Um, for me, and I believe too, it's your connection with your mother or with whoever passed away that that kind of determines what your grieving is. So for myself, I was primarily raised by my dad. I looked at my mother more of like a best friend for me, but that was still the most traumatic experience I've ever experienced. And it's something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. So I
Yeah.
can only imagine someone like yourself who, you and your mom were like glue, like,
Yeah. It
gorilla, gorilla snot. And
it's
now you
true.
have to wake up and that person is not there.
Yeah.
I can never tell you, oh, Brazil, you need to go out. Like, come on, let's go grab our swimsuits and
Mhm.
we're gonna go to the beach. If you're telling me, Nikki, I'm not in that place. And who am I to get upset because you tell me I'm not in that place or I don't want to
Mhm.
do it? If they're a true friend or if they're really a part of your village, they're going to allow you to grieve in the way that you're going to grieve, and they're going to accept it and be okay with it. Um, so that was just something I had to learn too, is they can tell you, okay, well, girl, it's time to get up. But if you don't want to get up, don't get up.
Mm-mm.
Like, and that's just
That's
that.
what
If
it
I
is.
break down tomorrow and I go into a 90-day coma, you can't tell me to wake up. It's time. It's time. Like
Yeah.
maybe I got hit differently yesterday, and now I need some time to myself to handle
Mhm.
that. And that's kind of why I took a step back from all of my social circles and things like that, because I was just tired of kind of being the monkey of the show and the entertainment
Yeah.
when it was time to just grieve. Like,
That's so interesting that you said. I don't consider you the monkey of the show. I just want to say that. Just
thank you.
I'm around.
It's
Um,
the Nikki Show. Welcome.
Oh, it usually is. Um, but I definitely like for me going through the depression I went through, and I just want to shout out therapy. I shout out therapy all the time. Therapy,
Yeah.
therapy saved my life, and
Hmm.
that's the way I feel, and that's what I 100% truly believe. Um, and so, but I had to like for me, I stepped back because I always felt awkward because I was always like it was the only thing on my mind. So it was the only thing I could
Hmm.
talk about is my mama's sick. My mama's sick. This is happening around my mama being sick. This person acting a fool because my mama's sick. This, you know what I'm saying? And it was just like
Right.
I was like, I don't want to be around nobody. Like, and the
Right.
breaking point was I went out and we were at like this bar or something. And I remember just like crying and I was just bawling in the parking lot at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was like,
Hmm.
I'm not doing that no more. I'm just gonna stay home. And it was a good and a bad, right? So I disconnected myself from people, which is not great, but I didn't feel the pressure of trying to pretend like I was okay.
Right.
That's what I need. And I think sometimes everyone needs an environment where they don't feel the pressure to have to be okay all the time and to have to
Absolutely.
be like, oh, I'm happy I'm out. Like, no, it's not realistic. And I feel like everybody needs that safe space. Mine was mostly by myself.
Hmm.
And I had one person I talked to, and believe me, he got very like it would be here and there because it would be too much for him, right? And
Hmm.
I had a therapist, but I think that's like everyone needs to allow people to have that safe space. to be like,
Mhm.
I'm not okay, and that's okay.
Yeah. And also too, I feel like allow people the time to open up to you. So maybe somebody just needs to be around a group, but they don't want to keep being asked, "Oh, what happened? Oh, are you okay? Oh, what's wrong?" For like I said with my mother's situation, it was very traumatic. It was very unexpected. We definitely believe that some foul play was involved, and I didn't want to keep going around people and like, "Oh, well, what's going on? And have you guys contacted the police? And what's the update on the?" That was nobody's business, I felt.
Mhm.
And so for me, I started excluding myself from things and people started taking it wrong, but really I just didn't want to be TMZ. Like
Oh man.
this was a personal, situation. This is my life, and for someone who has never really had to go through a grieving process before,
Mm.
um I used to walk around like, oh, the world is rainbows and butterflies, and my biggest, issue is how I'm gonna do my hair or what am I cooking for dinner. And now you're hit with not only trauma, but I was responsible for like all of my mom's decisions. And
Mhm.
that's hard for somebody who's trying to handle their own mental health
Yeah.
already. And then you're angry about, details that are going on. So the last thing you want is your friend group or whoever, like, oh, okay, well, what's today's tea? Like, that's not helping.
Well, that hit a nerve. So you had to deal with, did you deal with nosy people or people who were just like, oh my gosh. So story, and I don't think, I mean, the people who know me know who this is, but my grandma, I told you my grandma passed. I was in the
Mhm.
room. Well, another person was in the room, like a family, and I put in quotations, friend, an older lady was in the room. And so as my grandmother was passing, and I'm freaking out and going because I didn't know she was passing
Mhm.
in the immediate moment. I just knew her heart rate was decreasing. So I kept trying to get the hospital staff to help her and they wouldn't do anything, but they wouldn't tell me what was happening. So it was annoying.
Mhm.
So this woman went outside of the room door and started texting people from this day on. I have no words for this woman. I think it's disgusting. I think it is disrespectful. And for me, like once somebody do something like that, like I'm a nice person, but then I'm gonna be like, no, like I have some foul words I want to say, but I won't say them. But yeah, I'm like, no, done with you.
Yeah.
Don't come around here. And so to me, like just the fact that now I don't know if it's social media, I don't know if people bored with their life, but people act like people like everybody's life is for their entertainment and you got to be the first person to know and the first that like truly like sets me off. Like
Mhm.
don't come around here with that. So I don't
Yeah.
know if you had some of those. It sounds like you had some similar
Oh, absolutely. So without getting into like too many details,
statistics. Yeah.
my mother drowned in a bathtub, and before I was even able to process what happened, I opened up Facebook and it was on there that she overdosed, which was a complete lie. And it was from somebody who didn't even speak to her. Like, all of a sudden, she's your best friend, she's this, she's that, but the first place you go is social media and you
Mm-hmm.
broadcast this, and it was like you did it for likes. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't do it for like any type of genuine anything, because if you did, you would have reached out to her children and you would have thought about how we felt, because the town that we're from is small. And
Same.
my mom is not even from that. So for me, that spoke measures of my mother, that you're thousands of miles away from home. And the only reason that you're staying in this place is because this is where your kids are. And you make these bonds with these people that you think are your friends. And the first opportunity that they have to smear your name, they're doing it in your afterlife. Like, and it was, oh, my best friend is gone. You haven't spoken to her in 20 years. Like, now she's your best friend, and it's all of these tags and these likes, and it's this and it's share this and share that, but you're spreading rumors. And you're not thinking, okay, although myself and my brother, we're adults, this is our mother. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care if I was 65. The things that you are saying are hurtful. And
Mm-hmm.
then when her family doesn't even have the full story and you're out here spreading this stuff, you know, who are they going to start listening to, and what are they going to start spreading? They're going to start spreading these false truths that you put out here. So that was one of the reasons that my brother and I weren't able to really lay her to rest or have a memorial, because this is the stuff that is going around. And so before we can even kind of focus on, okay, how are we honoring her, we have to deal with, oh, well, this is what I heard, and is this true? And what about her furniture? Because, you know, she had nice stuff. Who are you going to send that to? And, oh, what about this? And, oh, I know it's some money. Are you guys planning on dividing that money in between the family? Rizal, we didn't get a dime.
I would have like I would have
Like
blew it.
that.
Like certain stuff I don't play about. Like yeah.
And so that's why I told you, like, it was hard for me. I haven't even been able to kind of grieve. Like, if I actually sat down and sat in my thoughts and processed the fact that my mother is not here, I wouldn't be standing. But I have to be strong. I have to make it. I have to be successful for all of these people who have talked bad about her, who have thought little about her, and who have even started to try to spread rumors about her when she's gone. Like,
Yeah.
so I didn't have time to sit in those feelings. Like, with me, it was like, okay, well, how am I going to avenge this? Like, I'm here to save the day. Like, you're just not about to put that out here.
Yeah. All right, I've taken like so much of your time.
It's
So we'll start. No, but it's good conversation, right? It's
Mhm.
good. And there are people, I think more than anything, going through all of this, there are people like the person standing outside the door that I'm like, I've always had a close circle. But
Mhm.
with that, I'm like, certain energies, I'm like, no, I'm not dealing with somebody who would do something like that, right?
Mhm.
Like it's just so but we put those people aside.
We
We're gonna
do.
put them
And
on the prayer list.
you put them on the prayer list, and then you learn and you grow
Hmm.
from it, and you just take all of that and you build it into this ball of success. And the last laugh is what you'll have. But what's the saying, like weddings and funerals, that's how you find out who your friends truly are. that
Um,
is that's truth. Like, you'll know in your hardest moments who is there for you and who will have your back and who will support you. And like you said, counseling, like, get some type of counseling, get you a strong support system, and find you a hobby or find you a business, find something for you to kind of just channel all of that energy in. Because if you don't, like, it's gonna take you under.
it is. So, last question: what
Mhm.
did your grief teach you about yourself?
That I am strong, honey. And
Yeah.
I can handle basically anything that is thrown at me. All of the fears that I had were like, oh, okay, well, I'll be broke one day, or, you know, I'll end up alone and
Hmm.
solid and destitute and all of that. Like, none of that matters. When you leave this earth, what will you be remembered by? And
Hmm.
I want to be remembered by helping as many people as I can, as well as honoring those who paved the way for me. If my grandma wouldn't have taught me like strength, I wouldn't know how to be a hustler. If my mother wouldn't have taught me perseverance, the first time I hear a no, I would just run away. Like, that was not put inside of me for no reason. So what are you going to do with that? And I can do anything if I can get over the losses that I've had.
Awesome. All right. So, Miss Nikki, I'm going to put something on the screen. You may have to scoot over this way. Please tell us about your business.
Yay. Okay. So my business is Nikki Joseph Realty. I am a realtor in the Atlanta area. If you are looking to buy a home, sell a home, even lease a home, I will be more than happy to assist you with that. I am here every step of the process, and I want to make sure that you say yes to the address that you love. So contact me today. And I was all over the screen. I was not in the right place.
Yeah,
I'm like, hold
I
on,
got to
let
figure
me.
that part out. I was like, I was doing it in the little thing. Like,
My left, your right. It's okay, guys. Just
It's
contact
okay.
me
They got the
today.
point. Well, they got the point. They got the point. Well, thank you so much. This is Nikki Joseph. You have like bared your soul to us today, and we've cried and we've laughed. And so I truly appreciate it. And oh my gosh, like I know you're going to do great things. So
Thank you. And so are you. And this Black Girl Joy, this is just amazing. So keep it up. Like, bring all this joy because we need it. We really do. And there's no platform like this. So I appreciate you so much. I learned something from every single broadcast you have. So
thank you, Nikki.
thank you. No
All
problem.
right. So we're going to end. What's bringing you joy this week, Nikki?
What is bringing me joy is helping someone find a home. We are going to get you closed by September 1st. So that will bring me a whole lot of joy.
September 1st. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Remember, like, share, subscribe, follow, all the things in all the places. Bye.